Heavyweights welcome into Pro Football Ireland, presented by 888 Sport, the official betting partner of the NFL in Ireland and the UK. Michael McQuaid, delighted to be joined with Mark Hogan. We're getting closer. We've got the college game coming up this weekend in Dublin and loads of content across all of our networks, so do check it out. Focusing on the NFL in this podcast or this episode, delighted to be joined by Galway and James Skehill. James, deal with. Welcome in, my man. How are you doing?
Gentlemen, thanks for having me on. I'm doing well. Heard the hurling is over now, so I'm looking forward to the NFL. One of my true
The hurling's over. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, it's funny because
It's the truest thing in the world, because I think as GA fans, we're the luckiest in the world that we have sport all year round. The summer only lasts now for about 2 or 3 weeks between the championship ending and then it kicks in for us, because anytime we have one of the American guests on, even we brought this up with Scott Hansen back in April, we said to him if he needs to fill up his summertime, he just needs to get into the GA championship.
Exactly, yeah. I suppose we're fortunate, because we can be supporters of multiple sports. Like, we can go, obviously the American sports run at different times of the year. We can go at the GAA, we can go at soccer. Soccer's only kicking off this weekend. And all of our, our national sport is finished. So we turn into international fans at this stage, yeah. So I've Manchester United and I have the England Patriots. So are the best of both worlds at the moment.
Flying. We're actually recording this, folks, in the middle of the United's first match of the season last week. So we'll see how that goes time and time. James, first off, obviously appreciate you coming on. We've had a few requests for this, and I'll not shout out names, but members of Pro Football Ireland, you should get James on. You should get. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll have a look. I'll not annoy the man. I'll see the crack. But in all seriousness, when we were DMing, you were saying to me, I've been a Patriots fan since '98, and I'm sitting there going, that's a lucky time to pick the New England Patriots. How does a lad from Galway pick the Patriots in the first place?
Yes, interesting question. And the thing is, my father would have been the youngest of all his siblings. So back when he was born in 1955, so you can imagine his siblings are obviously older, born previous. And him being the youngest, he had to stay at home for farm purposes. So all his older siblings immigrated. So all my uncles and my aunts immigrated to Boston predominantly. So if you go through the late 60s, early 70s, my uncles and aunts, they chip off, go to Boston. They're there 30, 40 years by the time I come around to an age. So in 1998, I'm 10 years of age. Father says to me, let's go, we'll hop on a plane and visit all your aunts and uncles. Now, they would have been home back and forth for years previous since I was a child. And so it just happened to be the situation in Boston where I think a large portion of the diaspora is Galway-based. And that's where it really all started. I suppose my uncle would have been a baseball fan first. So I would have started off with the Red Sox. That coincided with some great players too. I lucky to get to see the Mo Vajas, the Pedro Martinez, and Omar Garcia Parras, these players. And then let's say that brought me on to the NFL into Drew Bledsoe country and Tom Brady. And so then obviously the Gillette Stadium was during construction from 98 over to 02, and I was back and forth to America as I got older. And I actually have lost count. I haven't enough fingers and toes to count the amount of times I've been over there. Just even some stop-off visits. So what I try to do now on a yearly basis, if possible, although COVID interrupts that, is head out on a Thursday, catch a game at the weekend to come home on the Monday. So at least you've got your free accommodation to a degree with your family. They'll sort the tickets, and then I'm back at work Monday morning or Tuesday morning. So that's how it all kind of derived. And you said there, Michael, about being the luckiest fan, and there's no two ways about it. I don't deny it and say, yes, I am absolutely blessed to have picked up the Patriots and to be, I wouldn't say born into that franchise, but at least, have a family connection towards that area. Everyone thinks, it's because Tom Brady. No, it's actually before that. Before Tom Brady came along, and I just got lucky. So here I am.
Happy this. And I love it. And I know people who watch this going, Jim's on, and it's really interesting how you just described that there, because unless you had said that, I never would have known, because it's not as if it's anywhere online, James.
Yeah.
We're talking off camera there about Galway footballers and the Patriots. I'm not sure if you want to go into detail on that, or is it just what we were talking about before we plough on?
Well, I suppose people I think it's no secret locally, and at least in my own area, how much I actually love the Patriots. And we see it kind of leads me on to when I speak about my family being over there. I feel like it's one of my home teams, if that makes sense. So it's like a deep connection. Cappataggle's where I'm from in Galway. Galway's my county. But Boston and the Patriots are my people over there as well. So I was asked one night at a club fundraiser. It was a bit of crack. We were raising some money. It was a bit of a quiz and whatnot. And then at the end of it, the MC, who happens to be my other cousin, says to me, right, he said, who would you rather win more in the respective competitions? Would you rather Manchester United win the Champions League? Would you rather the Galway footballers win that Ireland? Or would you rather the Patriots win the Super Bowl? And without batting an eyelid, I said the Patriots. Now, when you say that amongst a whole host of Galway people, they're flabbergasted. They cannot understand this. So, and I stand by it. Like, Patriots are my team. Football, they have their supporters, they have their people in different parts of the county. But for me, Pats all day long.
Michael, we're going to have to get a poll on the Twitter asking people what they want to see their county win in All Ireland, because that is probably the most controversial thing that's been said on the Pro Football Ireland. I don't know if we have that. No, that's absolutely incredible. I think it makes me do cartwheels in my head. But it is so interesting to hear, because it does show the growth, and your passion is insane. But do you know what? Is it growing in Galway? Is there people almost to talk about it? Because I'll look back in the beginning of the hurling championship, I was down in Nolan Park for the Kilkenny match, and someone spotted me, and they came over to me and they said, how's Gerard McInerney's cousin getting on? I said, Gerard McInerney's cousin? Yeah. Are you aware of the story? Shane McInerney, we interviewed him over in Phoenix, is a kicker over there, and I had no idea that his cousin, it was the same McInerney family. Is he is Gerard is into it? Is there a cohort of the Galway team that was talking about it?
I think, funnily enough, let's say we did like this thing. There was a Super 15s, or Super 11s, excuse me, it was called, back a few years ago, whereby it was kind of a different type of hurling competition, which was brought to Fenway Park, you might remember. And going back now probably 4 or 5 years ago, excuse me, back in like 2017, 2018. But Galway went out and played, Dublin, Clare, and a couple of. But I actually got tickets to see the Patriots and the Bills. So I asked a couple of the guys, do you want to go? And one of the first guys for his hand up was McInerney. So Garage Mac, myself, and John Henbury, who's another avid, he's a Giants fan. He just dig me about Eli Manning every time he sees me. But we went over to the game to watch the Bills, and just Josh Allen getting started. So yeah, Mac was a supporter. I think, as a whole, I think American sports, particularly basketball and NFL, have caught on probably in the last 5 or 6 years. And I think that kind of coincides with obviously social media exploding, and also with the way Sky Sports operate on Red Zone. So I think from an Irish perspective, most people want to see the best of all games. Me personally, I like the individual game. I like to watch the game itself. But I think most people would like to see the Red Zone, where they get all the best clips, on a Sunday evening. So I think that's where kind of it was a snowball effect. And you can see jerseys being worn, memorabilia, hats, you name it. It's all getting kind of multiplying on a scale. And in Galway, I see it all the time. Even guys in my own club here, they're going around with Raiders hats and Green Bay hats, And like, they know it's not just a piece of token clothing. They know the players, and I think it's growing. And I think this slowly but surely, and that coincides with the London games. And I'd love to see a Dublin game. So I think we're branched out to different countries, heading to Germany and whatnot, and Mexico previously. So I'm praying that we graduate from a college game onto an NFL game.
I'll let you in a second, Michael, but I actually think it's such an interesting point that you've touched on there, because I was one of those that noticed on the sidelines of GAA matches in particular, the hats, the beanies, because they were so warm in the summer and the winter time, were become more and more popular. And it was something that it was discussed when we were up in Crow Park when the Steelers had announced it. And when the games went on to GAA Go recently, someone said, well, why is there a link? Why are they showing the Steelers games on GAA Go? And it's like, there's a natural fan base there that has started out at hats, and then through maybe liking a hat, they turned on that team on Red Zone. And then it's gradually built and built and built. And whatever about the Dublin game, I think it will absolutely come. But I think it's such a natural, like we were talking about at the very beginning, it's such a natural fan base, because we're sports mad in the country. But when our GAA season ends, we're straight in to be able to watch the NFL. So I think you're dead right with what you're saying. Yeah.
I was like, we need that. I think Irish people are that. We're kind of built that way, similarly from a sporting perspective to Americans, whereby we need high octane, high intensity sport. And like the NFL gives you that in spades. So that's why I think the people transitioned from Gaelic football, from hurling, straight over to NFL, because it's obviously chalk and cheese in terms of sport, but what it gives you, very, very similar.
As I said there, I'll certainly start saying the rosy for a game here. I think it'll happen in this decade, and I have no sources whatsoever. I'm just going to put that out there and say that. And if it does happen, it'll be pretty cool to see it. As a Tyrone man, James, I'm very jealous when I see counties that do so well at dual sports in terms of GAA. If people aren't aware what I'm talking about, I'll be open and honest for anyone that isn't GAA oriented listening to this. That's both football and hurling. There is a great hurling scene up here in Dungannon, so I'll give Owen Rua a shout out, for example. However, and you've mentioned it there, like Tag Leader has brought footballers, rugby stars, and he's trying to get them into America. You have touched on it briefly there. Just because hurling isn't so much as kicking, for example, do you still feel like there are opportunities or ways that game can sort of come together, and players that do play hurling as their primary sport could maybe look at transitioning a wee bit more? Or do you think it's because it's football is more natural?
No, I think football and AFL are very, very closely linked. I actually don't think football and NFL are linked at all. I think, first of all, the NFL, the Americans put an awful lot of weight on your athleticism. Your ability to move fast, move fluid, move strong. And I think when you look at hurling and football together, they're quite similar in that instance. Like both sets of players, can be very fluid, can move in multi-directional, can shift big weight, can jump high, etc. And all of those are attributes of NFL players. And I think from a hurling perspective, I always put weight on hand-eye coordination. So I always look at hurlers and say, yeah, you could be a wide receiver. You could be potentially tight end if you're big enough. Quarterbacks is a different story entirely. I don't think any Irish person can be a quarterback just yet, because it's something you have to be born with and ingrained it and taught through it from school, college, etc. But I think from some of the skill positions, certainly, obviously we go kickers and punters and holders, etc. But tight ends, wide receivers, and then you get the odd person who could be an offensive lineman or defensive lineman. But yeah, I think it's something that can transition. Obviously, with Christian Wade years previously, you'd say, right, and your man Payne from Australia with the Niners, but they're kind of more based towards running back. I don't think us Irish just yet have that level of athleticism, truthfully speaking, because coming from an amateur perspective. So I think we're probably limited to getting our hands on the ball, but getting the ball passed to us, i.e. receivers and tight ends.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I was reading Bruce Arians' book this year, and he was putting such a stress on a quarterback has to play more than just football when he's younger, American football when he's younger. He has to play multiple sports, whether that's soccer. For Bruce Arians' own son wanted to go to the NFL, was never good enough because he wasn't big enough, but he started playing soccer, and he did play a year in the NFL as a result. So it is, this is not just the GA point of view, but it does show that there's transferable skills there in hurling, like I said, the hand-eye coordination. I don't think that we're physically, a lot of Irish people are going to be gifted enough to make it to this elite level. But yeah, I suppose punting and kicking is a good way to start.
Yeah.
But I suppose when we fast forward a bit more to actually talking about some Patriots here, because we'd be remiss if we didn't, but they've had a few weird years now. Obviously, you're one of those that we can go in deep on this. How are you feeling with Matt Jones at the moment? Is it glass half empty or glass half full? Bailey Zappi could have had his job last year. Yeah. He then ended the season well with Bill O'Brien in there now. They're after getting Juju. They've got Mike Gesicki. They have some pass catchers. Do you think that he can have a breakout year, or are you kind of like, no, this has to be a big year for him, or let's get someone else in the building?
Well, I think after year one, let's say, when he turned into a Pro Bowler. Now, I know it's a defective Pro Bowler, you could say, but like he was really effective. Coming out of rookie into the quarterback position is not simple, right? In year two, I don't think he was helped. I don't think having, let's say, different coordinators, let's put it that way, who weren't exactly, I hate to say it, qualified, in my opinion. Joe Judge being a quarterback coach, Matt Patricia calling plays, it just didn't feel right for me looking from the outside in. So I don't think he was facilitated. Couple that with a bit of injury, and plus his whole demeanour didn't look very confident last year. Like he was getting quite, narky, and shouting at an awful lot, which you'd associate with other quarterbacks, but they've earned the right because they back it up. So here I am in year three saying, right, he's got Bill O'Brien back out of Alabama, huge offensive mind. His offensive line is okay. I still have a concern over the right tackle position. He's got a couple more weapons in Juju and Gesicki and Parker, etc. I'm concerned that we lost Myers. So I think our first 4 or 5 games are tricky. I won't lie to you. Having the Eagles first up is not a great one, but at least it's at home. But I think all the tools are there for him. So now it's just a case of no more excuses. Just get on with it now at this stage and show us what you got. And you could be staring down the barrel of, a potential 2-3 start. Realistically speaking, look at the opposition that we're going to face up. With the Dolphins, Eagles, etc. And if that happens, like the Patriots people, they're ruthless. They're absolutely ruthless. Like you look at what happened after the preseason game there during the week when Jones at the start, Zappi came in, did okay. McSorley didn't do it off, and then Malik came in, and now they're looking at Malik saying he's the next coming of Lamar Jackson because he went to Louisville. So I think people, once they see someone who's competing and winning games, that's the big thing. Winning games as well is all the Patriots want. And like you can go back as far as Like when Tom Brady got injured and then Jimmy G stepped up. Jimmy G was the next big thing. And then there was actually people actively siding with Jimmy G. And then look at Tom Brady comes on and wins another 2 Super Bowls. So I think patience, I won't say it's run thin. I think there was an acceptance last year that he wasn't exactly facilitated with what was going on around him. Whereas this year now I'm saying, right, you've got what you need. You've got what you need. Now go and do it. So I think if you get halfway, get to the bye week, which is week 11 or 12 for us, I think, and that'll tell an awful lot. That's what I always do. I look up to the bye week. Who have we got? And I'm thinking if we get a 5-5 on 6-4, I will take that into the bye week. And if Mac produces that, then I'm sold.
Yeah, because like what you allude to there, so has it even been confirmed that Matt Patricia was the play caller last year? That was the confusion that was going on. Like so they do have Bill O'Brien back in this year. He was in Alabama once upon a time. Obviously, that's the same where Mac Jones came from. And the RPO, I think, is going to be reintroduced because, like you said, Matt Patricia came from a defensive coordinator background. He gave no easy throws at all to ever help out Mac Jones to get him comfortable in the offense.
Yeah.
And that's what happened later on in the year, that they did simplify it a bit and it became a lot easier. And so you're talking about the opening schedule for the Patriots. I'll run through it now because you might have the element of surprise, but it is extremely tough. You're going Eagles, Dolphins, Jets, Cowboys, your first 4 games, and then you might get let up against the Saints. It is a brutal opener, but maybe there is the element of surprise there that they're going to get off to the hot start. Because, this is why I'm saying glass half full or half empty. You're talking about that Pro Bowl year. I know he got there because someone else didn't show up, but he did show a lot of talent in those last few weeks in the final few weeks of his rookie season.
He did, but then see, and I understand that, and sometimes you can be the new kid on the block and take teams by surprise because we know like NFL teams, they watch the world of tape and they break you down before you even know what you're doing yourself, and so they get into you could be in a scheme and like you could have often opposition defenses have you read, and I think in the first year I think he got away with it a bit, to be honest. I won't lie, I think he had a good year, a solid year for a rookie, but then last year, especially there, we were heading for a wild card spot, and then you go to the Buffalo game. 3 interceptions. I know he got 3 TDs, don't get me wrong, I'm content with that, but 3 interceptions in the manner in which he threw them, it's like, geez, in a high profile game, this is to get us a spot in the wild card, and it feels like he kind of, I hate to use the word choke, I hate to use that in American terms, but he kind of let us down a bit, so you're kind of saying, right, and again, I put those 2 years to bed. I'm saying he's learned the hard way, and he's learned some good things, and again, put Bill O'Brien beside him, and I know in the old Belichick way, Belichick will never say, yeah, he's our number 1 starter. We're behind him. He hasn't said it yet. I know in the roster, in the depth chart, he's down as number 1, but he hasn't come out and said Mac's our quarterback. That's a bit concerning too, especially for teammates. Do you know what I mean? If you're a wide receiver, tight ends or whatever, or line, you want to know he's our quarterback, he's our starter. Maybe they know in house, but even it doesn't exactly help the supporters who still have some nervousness.
Yeah, dead right. It's the biggest Bill Belichick thing in the world to not ever give the guy because who was it a few years ago? Was it like their first round draft pick? He wouldn't give him a number. He gave him like a number 89 number because even though the team needed to sell jerseys for the first round pick, they would not assign him because Bill Belichick was like, he hasn't earned his number yet, which is absolutely outrageous.
That's a great question. Who was that now?
Michael will look into it in a second, but
I think it was N'Keal Harry.
It was into it. It was no, I think it was N'Keal Harry. And sure, look, do you know, and that ties in. This is exactly it. I suppose I was going to ask you, how have you found, I suppose, the post Tom Brady year? Because you've had that failed N'Keal Harry year, you had that weird Cam Newton year, you've had a rotation at running back that's included everyone under the sun, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, Rex Burkhead. Has it been kind of better as a fan to like be able to realise what you had, or is it frustrating now being like, we know how to get this done, we just can't get these right players into the building?
Well, I think, like, obviously you put ferocious weight on the quarterback position, and for me, going through it in lifetime when we had Tom Brady, like, I knew, like, this is, he's a gem. He's going down probably as the greatest player of all time. So, like, I wasn't, kind of getting in any ways complacent, saying this is going to last forever, this is great. So, Father Time catches up with everybody and caught up with him, a bit similar than we'd like. But after his era, you're trying to put some weight on the Belichick coaching. You're going to say, right, we have all the tools there. We still have the same owner, same facilities, same coaching staff. You're saying they can rebuild again. And, there's always been questions around the Patriots draft. I myself have said, I just can't understand some of the picks he's had because they never seem to get the highlight player. They never seem to get, even that year with N'Keal Harry, like, there was 4 or 5 players we could have had who turned out to be gems. You know what I mean? Like, I'd love to see a CD Lamb. I'd love to see an AJ Brown. Like, and we never seem to go get those people. We're always going for the linemen and so both defense and offensive linemen, and kickers, and special teams. I know Belichick is kind of the guy he's more schematic first, like that the players will fit the scheme as opposed to the scheme fitting the player, which I understand. I get that, but like every now and then you'd love to see a big signing or a big draft pick. Go back to Antonio Brown. That was awesome. We thought that was going to be that would work out well. That didn't work out well. Randy Moss. Beyond those two, he had a splash in free agency 3 years ago, and even when he splashed in free agency, and I was looking at Nelson Aguilar, I was thinking, that's not a great boy. Do you know what I mean? Hunter Henry, John Smith, delighted. So there is question marks over at the minute. Like, he's got a good draft at the moment with White and Gonzalez. I'm quietly content to them on the defensive side of the ball, but on the attacking side, look, you got Douglas, you got Thornton, you got loads of speedsters down there, but I just hope that the scheme fits our players. A worrisome thing is that we've got Gazeki and Parker. They seem to be the Dolphins' seconds at the minute, whereas in years previous it was always us sending down the seconds to Miami, but they seem to come up to us now. So I'm hoping it works out. In Bill we trust.
In Bill we trust. You just have to revert back to last year and Cole Strange, a guy that was rated the third rounder going in the first round, and I'll never forget waking up and seeing the video from Sean McVay.
Sean McVay laughing.
Yeah. It was good. It was good content, James. To be fair, like it was mad. Tell us this. We've had events in like Belfast, Dublin, and around Ireland over the last couple of years, and it's been mad to see, James. First off, honestly, like the amount of Patriots fans, it's unbelievable. Like at these meetups, but the amount of ones to say to us, like just when we're chatting to them beforehand or afterwards, that they're sort of Bucks fans, or were they follow Brady after? Did you find that you sort of followed Brady after he left, or was it very much just a focus on New England? And how did you feel whenever he won the Super Bowl 1 year out from leaving?
Look, fair play to him. Because he created such history with the Patriots. He raised 6 banners up in Boston. You can't hate the man. Even when he returned last year, like there was a standing ovation in the stadium. But I do know that people, let's say in Boston, they went and bought season tickets for Tampa. And even my own family, like they were saying that they were disgusted with the way the Patriots had treated Tom Brady in that last year, and obviously the way the Titans blew them out in the playoff game, that they were nearly siding with Tom Brady. Like Tom Brady had given us so much over the last 20 odd years, and that he thought that my family thought that he should have been rewarded with whatever request he asked for. And I think the Antonio Brown thing, the Demetrius Thomas thing, I think as well with Alex Guerrera, that kind of all that coming together, I think probably just, truthfully speaking, pissed off Tom Brady, and he made his bed and said, I'm out of here. And when he won the Super Bowl, like you'd be happy for him. Like, and first of all, for the team he beat, I didn't want the Chiefs to win, and also to see Gronk. Like Gronk is my guy. Gronk is my favorite player. Always will be my favorite player. No one will top the Gronk. And to see him going together and beating the Chiefs, yeah, fair play to them. But first and foremost, I want to see them in the Patriots uniform. So to answer your question, no, I was not a Bucks fan. Happy for them when they're there, but I'd much rather see them up in the blue in Boston.
Sort of staying on the whole Brady thing, like it was at the end of 2020 that you announced your retirement from playing inter-county hurling with Galway. Obviously Brady's just walked away. Now look, I'm not going to start saying, James, that you're going to go and buy a football club in like the League of Ireland or something to do with Tom Brady done, but I think you can see on social media, I feel now like he's maybe sitting there watching like all the young quarterbacks in pre-season at the weekend there thinking, God, I'd love another shot. Like I watched Baker Mayfield playing for the Bucks this week, and it's like, God, they need Brady back right now. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
What's it like to leave like the big time, like that stage where we've been around for so long? And it must be difficult, but I guess in Brady's sense, when he's won so much as well, like, and he's been around for so long. I mean, you had a hell of a long career as well, in a good way as well.
Yeah, I suppose I had a long, like a 15 years ago, and I enjoyed most of it. You see, there's hard points of having that kind of career too, like getting beaten, injuries, trying to get your starting place, etc. So like obviously Tom Brady was a starter for his whole career. He was the ultimate sportsman in terms of his competitiveness. If you hear anyone across the water talk about Tom Brady, the first thing they talk about is his winning attitude, his competitiveness. So I think from his perspective, he'd always say, even to the day he's 8 years of age, he'd say he can compete, that he's got the tools to do it. So he's coming from a different mindset. But I think he probably looked at his roster down in Tampa and said, yeah, there's enough here. There comes a time as well in top level sport where you say, look, it's just the body won't listen to me anymore. I can't physically do what my mind wants it to do, and that's the hardest part to take as an athlete. If you like in years previous where you would have, ran a certain distance at a certain time or moved a certain distance within a certain time, and when your body starts to kind of go against you somewhat, that's very, very hard to take, because then you don't have the tools at your disposal that you always had. And those tools is what you based your performance off. And so then even Tom Brady, his last year was good. it was okay by all accounts to say. It was nearly Pro Bowl caliber, you could say. But his tools that he had in going right back to his early days, right up to the 07 season and onwards, they just they were beginning to subside a small bit. And I think coincided with his personal life and some of the chatter around Tampa. It's just I think he made a right decision. I was quietly content for him to retire and move on, because he's the type of person who would always elevate himself into any system or business or consortium, whatever it is that he goes into. So I was surprised to see him going into Birmingham. I actually tweeted what was like, in a nice way, what's going on here? Why did he pick Birmingham? Why couldn't he pick Galway United or something like that? But look, I think he just needs something. I think he needs something to focus his energy and his competitive spirit, if that makes sense. I think he'll stay in sport, for life, truthfully speaking, and he'll stay in touch with top level sport and try to influence these teams like he's beginning to do.
Yeah, it's an interesting one though. Like, I mean, do we need to rush this out, Michael, before Tom Brady unretires again? Because I'm one of those people that thinks he's gone. Michael, I know you don't completely think he's gone.
Oh, no, I think he's gone now. I think even it's mad how much he's aged in 6 months.
Yeah,
I think he's gone. He's gone.
Yeah, I suppose I keep on linking him now with kind of JJ Watt has been pushing Burnley. I think he has shares in Burnley. And he wants to be known as, no, I was here first or whatever, because he's posting his hats or whatever. But, one of the other names that has been kind of thrown around, will he be with New England in a year's time? And I think it's sacrilegious to even be talking about this, but Bill Belichick, I saw Asante Samuel Jr., their former Patriots cornerback, saying that he's overpaid now, that he was once the best in the game. He's no longer there. A lot of fans and certainly teams or people that aren't fans of the Patriots are saying that he hasn't been able to get them back to the back to the playoffs. Can you see ever? And look, there does seem to be, I suppose it should be said, that there is a rift coming between Robert Kraft and himself. That's what people are saying. But do you see any way that in a year's time, even if he doesn't have Don Shula's record, which he probably won't have, do you think that he would be gone?
I don't see. I suppose he's got a couple of duties, like he's acting GM and head coach, which is truthfully honest, guys, it's a rarity nowadays. Obviously, you usually have two people occupying each position. So what I'd like, if in the event the Patriots don't have a successful season this year, what I'd like to see is a high level GM come in place and work in tandem with Bill Belichick. Because I think Bill Belichick, the coach, there's no one to question his knowledge, question his experience, obviously, question his in-game play calling. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Some of his GM, I suppose, decisions is what people, my family anyway, would question the most. Whether it be his free agent signings, whether it be his contract agreements with some players, or his draft picks, or even his coaching, the way he filled some of the positions. Case in point, last year. So I think the question is never around his head coaching ability. I think it's around maybe some of his GM duties. So if in the event, as I said, things don't go the way, I would hope that himself and Robert Kraft come together, find an amicable solution if he wants to stay on, mind you, and put in a high level GM. Because from the Bill Belichick or even the Patriots, coaching tree, GM tree, an awful lot of GMs have gone on and been with huge franchises. You go to the Rams, even Arizona, you go to the Washington. All these people had people who came from the Patriots under Belichick and Kraft and, blossomed. So I think the potential is there. Maybe whether it's an in-house fire, I'm not sure. Or whether the Belichick moves over to GM full time, I can't see that happening. Because I don't think the qualified is the wrong word to use. I don't think he's best suited to that position, to be fair. I think if you nominate someone within to work with him, that's the best solution for me, because I do see it coming down the tracks, guys. If we don't go well this year, for me, we have to win a playoff game. Playoffs is number one, qualifying is number one, but we have to win a playoff game. If we win a playoff game, we're all good. Move on to next year and so on. But yeah, hopefully the future remains bright.
It is great we're doing this, because we haven't had Mark, I don't think we had a Patriots episode, so I'm gonna come out and say this now, middle of August. I think this is Belichick's last year, and I think he'll walk away at the end of the year. I don't think they'll make the playoffs because of the AFC, and I guess we can talk about that towards the end. And I'm gonna start. People are gonna go, "You don't like the Patriots?" People listening, I don't mind them. Like the more competitive they are the year, the better the AFC is. So like, of course, I want to be competitive this year, and I'm really intrigued to see what's going to happen at quarterback.
But I suppose you might as well talk about. I can't see him going because he's within touching distance of Don Shula. Now it'll probably take 2 years. Like, what's
He's a far way off. He's like 2.5 seasons off, though, isn't he? Like,
no, he's about 70.
if he won,
He's if he gets about 9 wins this year, he'll need 8 the next. Like, he only needs to have 500 level seasons. I suppose what you're talking about, James, is the real concern. It's that it's the AFC East, and that's if he's in the AFC South, he gets it done. If he's in the NFC South, he gets it done. If he's even in the NFC West, potentially he gets it done, or he certainly makes a massive dent into it. But how worried are you about the division?
Hugely worried.
It's the most talked about division, and they're the least talked about team in it, which is a bad sign almost.
Yeah, like I think for 20 years, the AFC East, I do believe it's because of Tom Brady, guys. I do believe that high-level quarterbacks didn't come to the AFC East because they knew they'd go up against Tom Brady, that they knew that of the 6 games they play, 2 of them were automatic defeats, if you want to call it that. But now, when it's not like they smell blood, Mac Jones is there, there's a question over the Patriots organization. Now they come in. So obviously you got Josh Allen. Like Josh Allen is a guy I give a grade A in terms of quarterback play. Tua's got weapons, guys. He's got weapons, and he's got a serious head coach that plays to his game. So like Miami are strong, and now you've got bloody Aaron Rodgers coming in and like mixing his juice in the AFC. So now we've got a serious situation whereby, from a Patriots perspective, we play 6 divisional games, and I'm saying to myself, God, I'd be happy if I get 2 wins, 3 wins. Whereas in years previous, it was 6 out of 6. Without question, I could start the year 6 out of 6. At worst, 5-1. Because down in Miami, we notoriously go bad down there. So, but here I am. This is 2-4. This is a 2-4 job, you know. And that's reality. And like, as much as I'd love to say it, that we go 5-1, I just know we're not. Like, I know we're not. I know going to Buffalo, I know the year before last, we did a great win 14-10 in terrible conditions. But look what happened last year. We got blown out again. And they can come. The teams like Gillette Stadium was a fortress for years. So who can come and win in Gillette? Miami did it last year. Buffalo can do it. You know, and now the Jets are Aaron Rodgers. Like, he's cool as ice. Look at the guys he's got around him. So, yeah, it's a question of the year. I think it's the strongest, for me, personally speaking, it's the strongest division in the NFL at the moment. It's got the most high-level quarterbacks. We're talking about 2 A-rated quarterbacks in the one division. I mean, damn. Yeah, that's the way I say it, you know. So here we are. But look, all you can do is just keep on rocking, and hopefully the Belichick schemes it up and we can squeeze out a 500 level performance.
Absolutely. And we've got 2 or 3 more questions last year, James, just before we go. We had Owen Murphy, obviously Kilkenny keeper, at Jeff Ryan Bulls night in Dublin the week before the Super Bowl in February. And by the way, we're a good half an hour into this. We're coming to Limerick for the same thing in January. So if anybody's listening to this, more information soon. James, you're more than welcome. We'll talk about that offhand. Obviously, Owen's a big Ravens fan, but obviously James being a big Patriots fan. Owen was asked about Bill Belichick and about the similarities between Owen's former head coach Brian Cody and Bill Belichick. Is there anybody in hurling, maybe outside of Cody, that could even stand up to Bill Belichick at all?
God, that's a good question. Like, initially, straight away when you ask me the question, my gut tells me no, there's not. I think when you go through he's had a strong. First of all, what team would throw away draft picks and do a trade for a coach? You know, in division. So that's the first thing. You know, I think at the moment there's not. I think if you go back in history, you're probably looking towards the Brian Cody area. Truthfully speaking, you are. But it's hard to pick some guys. It's hard to pick someone who has done the level, who's had the level of sustained success that Belichick has had, and he's held it with an iron fist. You know, and he's maintained the same look, the same presence, the same tone. Like, the man looks homeless, guys, when he's doing his media. Like, the jumper, the hoodie's ripped, you know, the hair's all over the place, he actually shaved. I mean, my God, I think he is, like, he wasn't dressed for anything. But the trouble is, he has had such a good hold over that organisation for 20 odd years that I think his position is nearly irreplaceable. That's why go back to your earlier question, guys, I can't see him being replaced, you know. And so if you flip that over to GA circles, nobody at the minute. Maybe if you go to football, lads, and go back to the Jim Gavin area, if he stayed in, you know, what he developed in Dublin, maybe you could say that you could have some kind of comparison for those two. But again, he didn't do it for long enough. We're talking 20 odd years, and we're talking 6 Super Bowls in a system that is designed for parity, equal parity. So he was able to do it on a repetitive level, you know. So I'd have to go with a no, but a close comparison, Jim Gavin.
If anyone's listening and kind of wants something really interesting, a book I've been reading at the moment is Freezing Cold Takes, if anyone knows the Twitter page. And it's basically gone back to when Bill Belichick went from the New York Jets and, like you said, the trade there. And how basically he had a clause with the Jets that as soon as Bill Parcells went, he would automatically become the Jets head coach. And then we know that he showed up to the press conference and he was gone. And the kind of the animosity that was there and how it didn't get off to the perfect start with New England, but now he's gone on to become the greatest coach of all time, which it's definitely something interesting. I suppose you would probably love it. It's a good chapter now. But yeah, kind of fast forwarding, and it was kind of talking about his defensive philosophy and that. The defense now at the moment seems to be year 4 of a 4-year plan, just because they've had to kind of reset there. I know when you're talking about him being a general manager and you're talking about how he like let the likes of Stephon Gilmore go over the last few years and that, I think between Josh Uche and Matthew Judon, we put out a graphic there recently about who the best pass rushing duo is in the NFL at the moment. I think that duo is absolutely up there. Josh Uche is a backup last year. The games that he came in, it was like, he had nine games at 9 sacks or something when he came in last year as a start. He was absolutely phenomenal. How excited are you for the defense? It seems that like Belichick should have a big year with it again.
Yeah, I think I think people associate Belichick with being a defensive-minded coach. I think that goes without saying, to be honest. And like Matt Patricia, when he stays in his defensive lane, he's quite good as well. He's won Super Bowls with the Patriots in that position. Traditionally, the Patriots would have a top 10 defense. You know, they usually have a top 10. It's a rarity we have the top defense. I went back a couple of years ago there, we had it. But if you go through, like, obviously our front seven, let's see, you've got Godshaw, Guy, you know, you've got Judon, you've got Uche, then you go back, you've got Jennings, you've got Juwan Bentley, then go back further, you've got Mills, you've got, you know, Duggar's a stud, now you've got Gonzalez. So, like, you go through our front, our middle linebackers, outside linebackers, our secondary, all good, all really, really effective. And they can play in schematics. We can play zone play, we can play man-to-man, you know, so whatever team we come up against, and like even if you go in your own division where you've got Wilson, you've got Diggs, you've got Waddle, you've got Hill, etc., we can take them. We can take them because we can play an effective zone play like we would have had done with Patrick Mahomes in years previous. We did it up in Buffalo against Josh Allen, you know, so the tools are there for the Deviants. So I think if the offense can stay on the field, this is the thing, guys, can we get through third down? That's the thing with Mac Jones now. Can he get through third down? If the offense can keep a string of plays, stay on the field, move the chains for 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes, which is what you become associated with the Patriots in ball retention and ball control, then it gives the defense to have a chance to keep everything below sub 20. You know, if you keep games nowadays below sub 20, you know, you're going to win. Really speaking, you have a huge chance to win. When they go above 20 and head to 30, realistically, you've got to. That means your defense is on the field an awful lot. So I have great confidence in our defense. I have great confidence in our special teams in every phase. But situationally, can we do it in the offense? That's the big question to complement the other two.
It was finally double question. First off, are you coming to Frankfurt this year? And if not, why not? And we can certainly hook you up in terms of that there with everything apart from tickets. And finally, you definitely see what we can do there. And finally, you know, you've been a fan for nearly as long as, you know, I've been into soccer, never mind the NFL. Like this, it's an unbelievable time to have been a Patriots fan, even up until now. What's been your favourite team?
I've two favourite teams, okay? One, it's tough for me to say because we didn't win it. So the 07 Patriots, you know, they were electric, lads. Like, they were absolutely electric. And, you know, you've great memories watching them. And, like, at the time, I know we didn't win it, okay? And I know John Hanbury is listening. He'll say Eli Manning, and, you know, Tom Brady didn't beat him, and I know he didn't beat him. But in terms of electricity, that team was electric, weren't they? They were just electric. They scored points at will. I think I could be open to correction, but there was the highest points differential in the history of the game. Check that one for me. Patrick Mahomes had a close second last year, I believe. So that's a little nugget of information for you. And I think a special one for me then was when we beat the Rams, in 19 of the 18 season 19. That was the last one because I watched it with my newborn. Got her a little onesie. She's only 4 days old. And the thing, my uncle rang me. So my first girl was born on like a Saturday. My uncle rings me on the following Monday and says, right, book your flight. I've got your tickets to Super Bowl. And so I'm like, oh Jesus, my wife is coming home with the child. What do I do? This is a genuine question. So
That's the worst nightmare situation.
I ring my mother and I say, listen, what should I do? And I shouldn't have rang a woman. I shouldn't ring my mother says, don't you dare get on that plane. You stay at home. I'm happy I stayed at home, but during the game, my uncle and my cousins are sending me Snapchats and videos. They're there at the game live. They win the game. I watch it with my baby. All is good. But I look back now and I'm thinking, oh, I could have been there. I could have been there. But that's my favorite. That's my second favorite team because maybe the circumstance, and also it was Brady and Gronk's last ride. So again, that's probably more from a sentimental perspective.
It was a game for the purists, that's for sure. We will certainly, let's Mark, let's see if we can get James to Vegas next year if the Pats get all the way, and we'll see the crack. James, I feel like this won't be the last time we talk about the Patriots, but certainly we appreciate you taking the time out, especially when it's a busy evening. But we're getting closer to the season. Obviously, hope you enjoy the season, and we'll drop your social links in the comments. And folks, obviously, James, thanks so much for coming on, man. Massively appreciate it.
And thanks for having, guys. I enjoyed the chat. I don't get to chat this in depth about NFL very often with Irish people. It's usually Americans I speak to across the water. Thanks for having me, guys.